Hi, I'm Heather from Hia Booktubes, and today's romance is like the Cruel Prince. A lot of times when you ask for recommendations like a book, you just get other books in the same genre as that book. So if you're asking for romances like the Cruel Prince, you'll just get every YA fantasy ever made. And just because they're in the same genre doesn't mean that they have similar elements. So I do have a couple of fantasies, but I also have some adult romances that I think have something in common with The Cruel Prince in a way that I think you might enjoy these if you enjoyed The Cruel Prince. I'm talking about The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. It's the first in the Folk of the Air trilogy. I think it's in the thumbnail, so you should be clear on that. But it is a high school romance in the Faelands with a fae, and there's also court intrigue and assassins and things like that. So my very first recommendation for it is On the Edge by Ilona Andrews. This is a woman who is skilled in defending herself, and she has romance with a fae lord, and she lives in the Edge, which is the place between the weird and the broken. The weird would be the Faelands, where all of the paranormal beings are, and the broken is our world, where there's Walmart and no magic. So she lives on the Edge, which is kind of like a very impoverished place between the two, where they are almost eking out a living like in a bayou type of setting. They have enough magic to go into the weird, but not so much that they can't go into the broken. It's a very interesting setup. Ilona Andrews is a fantastic husband and wife author team who write urban fantasy romance, and it's just great. But this one is a fae love interest. And I have Elena the Lioness by Tamora Pierce. This is a YA fantasy series, one of my all-time favorites. I grew up reading this. Elena wants to be a lady knight, but there are no lady knights in their world anymore, and so she disguises herself as a boy and trains to become a knight. The first book starts when she's 11 and goes until she's 14 or 15 or 13, something like that. The second book is her from 15 to 18, and then the third book is her being a knight, and then the fourth book is the conclusion. The first and the fourth book are my favorite. There is a romance subplot, and there is a prince love interest and a king of thieves love interest, and it's very entertaining. But I love the main character. Alanna is amazing. She has magic, but she's also training to be a knight, so you get a lot of the training on page, and I think that that's really fun. And I just think if you liked one, you would like the other. Then I have Toxic Desire, which is Planet of Desire #1 by Robin Lovett. So this is an alien romance, and they crash land on this planet that literally creates extreme horniness, and you can't fight it. So they are enemies. They were fighting in space, and that's why they crash landed. So they're actively trying to kill each other and also like ripping each other's clothes off. It's very smutty. It's very over the top and wild. I think you might like it if you love that knife to the throat as sexual tension dynamic. Then I have Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I specifically included this in the recommendation even though it's well known on BookTube because I am in some fan groups for The Cruel Prince, and I often see it asked, would I like these books? And it's Sarah J. Maas books, and I think the answer is yes. I think that the fandoms have a lot of overlap in what you like. So Throne of Glass, she is an assassin, and she is fantastic with swords. So because of that, I picked her specifically in relation to The Cruel Prince. But the ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas is completely based in the Faelands, and then they don't show up really in the Throne of Glass books until book 3. So there is that. But I really think that if you like one, you will like the other. I loved both and I think the main characters really make you care for them, and they have that same sort of dynamic where they are trying to kill people. And I have Resurrection by Siobhan Davis. This is a bully romance in contemporary, which obviously The Cruel Prince really starts out as a bully romance, and this is extreme. So they're in a gang. It opens up to her dad dying, and she has like a one-night stand with all of them. It's a reverse harem, so it's her and the 4 guys. And there are definitely some trigger warnings in this series for sexual assault and death of a loved one, violence, a ton of violence. People are going to die, and there's going to be a lot of violence against the main characters. And there's also her mother is going to be graphically sexually assaulted on page, and that happens in the third book, and this is after she's already been in an abusive relationship, and so it is difficult to read about and is definitely deserving of a trigger warning. But she's basically setting out to destroy the people who killed her dad, and she's going to use these guys to do it. And there's a lot of hate to love there, and gang activity, a lot of smut, and the alpha kind of has to learn to share, and that's always interesting. Lastly, I have The Deviant King by Rina Kent. I loved this series. If you want to read about a sociopath who falls hard for a certain girl, but only after he kind of puts her through it, it's so good. It's violent. That sexual attention is there, especially that hate to love sexual attention. It definitely starts off as bully. There are things that you don't know at the beginning, and it continues to kind of expand, and things start to make sense as you go farther into the series. But the bully, hate to love, sexual attention, let me grab you by the throat up against the wall, it is there. And so if that's what you want, this is where it's at. This is not a reverse harem. There are 4 books, I believe, about this one couple, even though there are other guys that are his friends and they get their own books, but you get several books about just this couple. And he is a sociopath, and it is fascinating to watch him crush people for the slightest offense, especially the slightest offense against his girl. So I'm into that. I think that is so much fun. I just find it so entertaining and fascinating when like their mind does not work the same way. So yeah, those are my recommendations. If you love The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, what are your recommendations? What power dynamics in a couple did you think really fit Jude and Cardan? I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.